biggest issues with having a motorcycle is that you constantly have to be on the lookout because somebody might be wanting to steal it. That's just something that comes along with it, because unfortunately motorcycle theft is a big issue around the world. Just alone in the US, about 45,000 bikes get stolen every year. So if you look at it in a math perspective, that's 5 bikes every hour. So for me, I wanted to give you guys an idea of what you can do to just protect your bike, and what just little ways that you can. But definitely know that if a thief really wants your bike, he's not gonna stop. He's gonna do whatever he can to get it. First thing to note is that nowadays, the people that steal bikes, they're not amateurs. They're not the old school thing where, at least in the United States, they're not just gonna, break, shove a screw into your ignition or cut something and ride the bike out. It's just not gonna happen. By the time you're just looking to get caught that way. Especially if you run into a police officer and he notices that you're riding the bike and there's no key in the ignition. It still happens, but it's not very common anymore. The more common thing now is that what they'll do is they'll shoebox your bike, which is they'll take a van, more than likely it's a stolen van, and 2 guys will pick it up and put it inside of the van and take it, so that no one can see it. So the first thing that I would suggest that you do is that every motorcycle has one basic line of defense, and that's you lock your forks. Locking your forks is going to at least keep the bike from rotating around. Don't let that be the only defense you put on your bike though, because just putting it on top of some kind of little dolly will make the bike easy to move around, accessible to just turn back and forth and move it wherever they need to move it. So don't rely only on that. The other thing that comes in really handy is a disc lock. Now there's tons of them that are made. The point of them is to attach them to your rotor, so then you can keep the bike from getting moved back and forth. Once again, if they're using something like a little dolly, which there are motorcycle dollies, then it's not going to do you any good, because then later on they can cut it or however means that they'll do. My suggestion to you is to get one that has an alarm on it. The one that I have has a 120 decibel alarm in it that just even a little bit of vibration will set it off. I mean, you see how noisy and how loud that thing is. In the middle of the night, if somebody decides to mess with your bike, everybody's gonna hear that. Because if you notice, everything at night, even when you do the smallest thing within your house or around your neighborhood, small little noises that during the day may not matter or be heard, at night everything is heard, because there's not that many noise from cars, from animals. So definitely get one of those. And those are really good for when you leave them out in public, when you leave your bike out in public, because it keeps someone from even messing with your bike, even if it's not to steal it. Just because I've seen tons of times where somebody goes and they sit on your bike. Like some stranger just get on your bike and try to play on it, and that's so annoying, because I'm like, well, a lot of the times it's kids, but still, I don't want anybody on my bike. Not unless they have my permission. A cover is also an excellent thing to have, because what you can't see, they might not want to take, because not just because a bike is under a cover doesn't mean it's a nice bike. Depending on what kind of bike it is, they may or may not want it. They may or may not need to take that kind of bike. And then it's an excellent thing to have a cover, because what I'll do is that I'll put my disc alarm on there, and then I'll put the cover over it. So if nobody knows that the disc is locked, and even just touching it will set it off. Because trust me, a lot of people like to get the really bright colored ones because then people can see that they're there, and it's kind of like a visual deterrent. I think that's how you say it. Anyway, it keeps it. It's kind of like a visual thing, and people will see them, then they don't want to mess with your bike because it's on there. But to me, showing it or people being able to see it means they can plan better, because once again, I mean, these aren't amateurs. These aren't guys that are gonna just out of an impulse, they're not just gonna go and try to take your bike. You gotta remember that. These guys are gonna do their homework, they're gonna see, and they're gonna wait for you to drop your guard. Because my buddy just had his R6 stolen, and it was the one night that he didn't have the chance to lock it, and that's it. They took his bike. It wasn't, I really don't think it was that they just drive around, they're like, oh, look at this bike. They see, they do their homework. So you always have to keep your bike very secure, because you know, just because you work hard for your stuff doesn't mean other people are willing to work hard for theirs, or they're just looking to make that easy dollar. One of the biggest mistakes that I always see that people do is that they get a chain, like a kryptonite chain, and then they put it between they put it through the rear wheel or the front wheel. And honestly, that is one of the most naive things you can do, because a rear and front wheel can both be removed in less than a minute, 2 minutes, and max usually 2 minutes. It's not going to take a thief very long to get that wheel off. So I honestly highly suggest that you don't do that. Don't make the mistake, because then it'll make you feel, you'll get that gut wrench feeling that your bike just got stolen, and then it'll make you feel like an idiot because you locked your bike and they still got it that way. And I mean, I don't know. Personally, if I were to steal a bike and I saw that somebody put a chain through the rear wheel, I would purposely leave the chain just to make them feel bad, because it's kind of like you just made it easier for them, because I'm pretty sure that they'll sacrifice the rear wheel for the whole bike, because all you need is to remove the rear wheel and then some kind of stand and the bike moves still. So my suggestion is that if you're gonna use a chain, which I do suggest if you don't have a garage, and even if you do have a garage, it's good to anchor it, because a lot of guys get their bike stolen from inside the garage. So I mean, it turns from just Grand Theft Auto to a burglary. My suggestion is that if you're gonna do it in public, if you're gonna keep your bike secure, whether in public or your apartment, either one, put it through the forks integrated with the forks, because a lot of people say use the frame, but you can't. On a Super Sports, where are you gonna squeeze the chain through a frame? It's just not gonna happen. So with the forks, at least you know that if they take the rear wheel, the top fender is still there, and it's gonna take longer for them to either break it and or take it off. So I suggest doing it there. But an even better spot to do it in is on the swing arm. On the R6, even I think the R1 and the CBRs, there's a hole in the swing arm. Stick the chain through there. And then even if you do stick it through there, you know, then incorporate the rear wheel too while you're at it if you want. But just getting it through the swing arm, it makes it even harder, because to remove the swing arm, it takes way more than it does to remove a rear wheel. That's where you want to really lock your bike. So that's what I suggest as far as bike safety, because like I said, it is a big problem, and nobody wants to wake up in the morning or in the middle of the night and see that their bike is missing. And then the last tip that I can really give you is to make sure that you have good insurance, that you have full coverage. Don't just get liability, because a lot of guys get liability because they can't afford full coverage. And to tell you the truth, if you can't afford full coverage on a motorcycle, you more than likely can't afford to ride a motorcycle, because everybody says, yeah, you're gonna save on gas, and you do, but usually parts in a motorcycle are more expensive. Just one rotor, just one front rotor is like $230. For $230, you can get all 4 rotors and all the brakes for a car. So make sure to have good insurance. Make sure to call your insurance company and ask them to review your policy. Make sure that you cover theft, vandalism, any of that kind of stuff. Because It's much easier if you have your bike. If they vandalize your bike so bad it gets considered totaled, at least you have that coverage. If they steal it, then you have that coverage. So definitely make sure to have good insurance. And just know, like I said, to me personally, not having full coverage is as dumb as riding a bike without a helmet. Because I mean, yeah, there's a lot of I guess they're incorporating new things on motorcycles for theft. Like they're trying to put chips on the keys, but nobody rides the bike out. They're gonna shoebox it. Yeah, the key thing works on cars because you can't just pick up a car between two guys. I mean, yeah, you can put it on jacks, but then getting it up a trailer and stuff, it's not gonna happen.